You have built a RAG system. You chunk your documents, embedded every piece, and yet retrieval keeps missing the obvious answer. Why? Here is the culprit. When a chunk gets embedded all by itself, it loses the surrounding story that gave it meaning. A line reading, "The revenue grew 3%, has forgotten which company and which quarter it ever belonged to. Contextual retrieval, introduced by Anthropic, fixes exactly this with a surprisingly simple move that requires no change to your retriever at all. Let's walk through it. At heart, the pipeline is just 4 steps, and only one of them is genuinely new. We take an ordinary document and follow it from raw text all the way to a chunk that finally retrieves the way you hoped. Watch each stage. Start with the document. We break it into smaller chunks, exactly as any RAG pipeline does, so each piece is small enough to embed and retrieve. Nothing unusual yet, but notice that every chunk has just been torn away from everything that surrounded it. Here is the clever step. For each chunk, we hand both the chunk and the whole document to an LLM and ask it to write a short context, a sentence or two that situates this chunk inside the bigger picture, naming the company, the quarter, the topic it came from. That little context gets glued onto the front of the chunk before anything else happens. This technique prepends the summary, then embeds the combined text and indexes it for keyword search too. So the situating detail travels with the chunk everywhere it goes. Now the payoff. A chunk that once read, "The revenue grew 3%, now carries that it belongs to Acme's second quarter report about revenue. Its embedding is disambiguated, so a question about how Acme did that quarter finally pulls the right chunk to the top. So what actually changes between a plain pipeline and this one? Here it is laid side by side. In a standard pipeline, each chunk is embedded completely alone, stripped of the surrounding text. A pronoun with no antecedent, a figure with no subject, a claim with no time frame. Its embedding lands in a vague, ambiguous place, and the queries that should have matched it quietly slide right past. Contextual retrieval hands every chunk a tiny situating summary first, so it knows which company, which quarter, which topic it came from. The embedding sharpens, the keyword index gains real terms to match, and Anthropic reported this cuts retrieval failures substantially, especially paired with BM25 and re-ranking. Strip it all down, and 3 ideas make this technique worth adding to your stack. It adds an LLM written context to every chunk before embedding. Just a sentence or two, generated once at index time, that names the document, the section, and the situation the chunk actually lives in. It disambiguates chunks that were meaningless in isolation. A vague figure becomes a specific claim about a specific entity, so its embedding lands somewhere the right queries can finally reach and match it. It attacks failures at index time, not retrieval time. You change nothing about the retriever itself. Prompt caching keeps the per-chunk LLM calls affordable, and it composes cleanly with hybrid search and re-ranking. All right, let us lock in what matters. Contextual retrieval prepends a short, chunk-specific summary to each chunk before embedding, so isolated pieces keep the meaning their surroundings originally gave them. An LLM writes that context by reading the chunk alongside the whole document. Then the summary is glued on before both embedding and keyword indexing. It matters because context lost at chunk boundaries is one of the biggest, most overlooked sources of RAG errors, and Anthropic showed this pre-processing step cuts them sharply. The cost is 1 LLM call and a little extra storage per chunk, tamed by prompt caching, and it slots neatly beside hybrid search and re-ranking. If untangling RAG like this is your thing, a whole library of AI explainers is waiting for you at standarity.com. Come explore.